Hey, this is Zero Pitch, and today we're going to do a quick setup video on the Tarot or HobbyKing ZYX 3-axis gyro. We're going to take a 250 that's it's already been set up with a flybarless head, and we're going to quickly go through the setup. A lot of guys out there are having a little bit of trouble getting this going. So here's how I got mine set up. The very first thing you want to do is to take your transmitter, and you will want to reset all of your parameters on the transmitter. So select the model that you want to that your 250 was set up for, and the first thing you want to do is go all the way down on a DX6i. Your model type, of course, is going to be helicopter, and you can change your model name. Reverse we'll get to later. Important thing here is that you want to set your swash type to a 1 servo 90-degree servo, because the pitch is going to be controlled just by a single channel. And you may want to turn your DI dual rates combo however you feel comfortable, and that's the only setting in this menu. Next thing you want to do, actually first thing you want to do, is to go in and make sure that all your trims are centered. You want to get all of the trims out of all of your sticks, reset everything to center. I know mine aren't, but it's comfortable flying this way. It's holding real stable. Alright, next thing you want to do is go into DR Expo. The ZYX takes an awful lot of Expo, and trust me, you will want to put this much in. Both of my birds that are converted are actually really hot with these settings. I may take them down eventually, but I find it real comfortable and smooth to fly with 40% on the aileron and elevator. I'm putting 25% in the rudder. It just seems to mix well with the aileron and elevator. Next thing you want to do, go into your sub trim, reset all of your sub trims to 0. On the gyro, I've actually got real low settings on the 250. The 250 is real touchy. It's got very little mass on the tail, and recommend to start usually with 60. I actually had to go down to 57 here, which is a 14% actual, and 40, which is 20% or 19% on the tail. I'm sorry, on rate mode. Next setting, your throttle curve. That can be just the way that you've got it set up currently. Pitch curve, same as normal. I set for normal mode. I start with 35 on the low end, then go to 42.5, and then 50, 75, and 100. And in idle up mode, just a flat straight curve. Swash mix. This is pretty important. It's going to be inhibited now because your mixing is actually going to be done in the gyro. You want to turn all your other mixes off. No revolution mix. And I think there was one other parameter in here. Travel adjust. I have mine set to 100. You can set the limits in the gyro. So move your stick both directions, up and down. Make sure that everything is reset to 100 both directions. And that's it. Alright, next thing you want to do, move on to the helicopter. As I said, I've already got the head on here. It's kind of a standard setup on the head. What I did, this was a flying bird, and what I had done is I just popped off the old head, and the new head goes on just pretty much the same as the old one. You will want to Loctite everything. I actually didn't check the balls to make sure that they're Loctited, and need to do that. Mine did come with some Loctite on it, which was unusual from what I understand. You can't see that here. Pointing to things. So the Loctite everything. Make sure you Loctite the balls. This one doesn't need to be. I'm sorry, does need to be Loctited. It's got a screw on each side. Not true. This one doesn't need to be Loctited. Make sure you Loctite here. Make sure there's no binding. There we go. That's a little better. Loctite here on the mixing arms. You need to disassemble the feathering shaft. Make sure that it's Loctited in there. Loctite your head button, and make sure that the balls on the ends here are Loctited. Alright, once you've got the head set up, next thing you're going to want to do is to install the gyro. What I had to do on the 250 here, is to move the mounting plate from the lower position to the upper position. It was pretty easy to do. You just pop these two screws out, and you can kind of spread the frame size, move it up. I had to file out these holes a little bit to make sure that it fit. Move it up, and I actually rerouted most of the wiring by popping the bottom plate off, and that allowed me to get some pretty nice, neat wiring in here. I'm not sure the speed controller under the battery is a great idea, but it just happened to fit, and it made for some real nice wiring. This model tends to run pretty cool, so I'm not too worried about it. All right, you want to make sure on mine the gyro. I actually need to remount this because I've got a little bit of binding on the wires here, so it's not quite horizontal and parallel to the main shaft, and I'm getting a little bit of mixing in when I do pyros, so it's not quite flat. I'm going to want to pop that off later and get this readjusted. Okay, in the wiring, your top wires that are coming out here on the Tarot, the top two here, these go to the transmitter. And it's pre-wired. They're just single wires. They go into the transmitter. Aileron goes into the aileron channel, and rudder goes into the rudder channel. The remaining ones, look on the diagram. You want to follow whatever the recommendation is in the manual. Channel 4 goes to your tail, and the other 3 go to the various pitch, aileron, and elevator servos. Okay, once you've got that installed, next thing you're going to want to do is to get your model powered up. Very good idea to make sure you will not actually spool it up. I tend to unplug these, but since I've got the wiring done so tightly here, I'm going to take a chance and trust that my throttle hold is going to hold the model and not spin the motor up. Transmitter on, everything down to 0. Okay, so crack out your manual once you got it powered up. The manual recommends making sure that your servos are set correctly before powering up, but the default is for analog, and any digital servo is going to survive that, so that's not really an issue. First step here, what we want to do is put it into programming mode. So unplug the power. When you're turning it on, there are 2 setup menus. Most gyros have one setup menu with the rudder stick, and you hold the rudder stick. Well, for the system setup, we're going to actually want to hold the aileron stick over as we plug it in. And I'm going to flip this to its side so you can hopefully see the lights as they come on. You don't have to be too quick on it, because the gyro does take a minute to initialize. So hold your oh, I gotta do that again. Turn throttle hold off. Alright. Hold your aileron stick to the side, and you'll notice these lights here. Just keep holding it until they start to blink like this, then you can let it go. Make very sure you're not going to hit any throttle. Okay, the blinking light, ignore that on this transmitter. You will not see anything when you first enter the setup menu here. The gyro's in kind of an in-between programming state. It's kind of useful for checking pitch if you want to make sure it's leveled. Now, I'm using a push pin with the head cut off. Push pin with the head cut off here. You can use a toothpick or anything else. Toothpick tends to get crushed a little bit, so you can find maybe one use on it. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to set the installation direction to the gyro. So you hit the setting button once, and you'll notice one blink and then a yellow blink here. That's indicating direction 1, which is the default, and it's mounting the gyro in the direction that I have here in this model. If you're going to put it on the side, just make very sure that it's parallel and level in all directions to your main shaft. Okay, next thing you want to do, 2 flashes. Hit that set button again. 2 flashes, and this lets you set for F3C mode or for 3D mode. I have not run this in F3C mode, so I can't make any comment on it. What I've found is that the 3D mode is perfectly good for my style of flying, which is kind of advanced sport flying. Next thing you want to do is you want to set the servo type. Now, before you get to this step, you may want to look up what type of servos you have. Most servos, actually all servos, will work at the 1520 analog setting, which is the default for both the cyclic servos and the tail servo. This the HobbyKing HKS CM9-6s are digital, and they are 333 hertz. I believe that the gyro works only with 333 hertz servos. You might be able to change that if you get the programming box, but I don't have one. Alright, so what I did is, let's see how many flashes. We've got 2 flashes here, which is not, I didn't get to the right mode here. Let me hit the set button again. 1, 2, 3 flashes means we're setting servo type, and you'll notice here I should have 3 flashes. Yep, 3 flashes because I've got digital tail servo and digital swashplate servo. Next thing you want to do, very few people need to change this next setting. This is the swashplate type. Sometimes it doesn't hit, so watch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Swashplate type, almost all helis I think today are 120 degrees CCPM, so you shouldn't need to change that default. And the last setting, pirouette optimization, I'm not going to do right now with the model on its side. It moves the servos a little bit. That's the very last thing that you get set up. Okay, always make sure you hit the set button after you've changed a setting to lock in the setting. I don't know what happens if you unplug the power just after changing it, but I think it may not hold. So we unplug the model here. Now the next thing we're going to do, regardless of what the manual says, it says hold the aileron stick for the next setup menu. We did that in the previous step. The manual that I have is incorrect. You actually want to hold the rudder stick, and it does say that in the text. So let's plug it back in. Hold the rudder stick to the side. Wait until we get those rotating lights. There we go. Make sure you're not going to accidentally spool up on the bench. And now we're ready to move on to the next step. Alright, I have not changed the gyro gain. The settings on both of my models for gyro gain, which are the first setting, are perfectly good. I actually am going to skip past it pretty quick because I don't want to change that setting. I'm very happy with the way things are set. So we're going to go to 1 flash and 2 flashes. 2 flashes are servo reverse. This is pretty easy to set up, but it was a little confusing at first. What you want to do here is tell the gyro which direction your pitch servos go. So I actually have everything set up. Make sure your motor's not going to spool up. When you're in this step, you want to move the throttle stick, and your swash plate should rise level. Now that's of course presuming that you put your this control arm is on the leading edge. Then when you push up, your swash plate should rise up to the top straight. Now the way that you do that, each time that you move the aileron to one side, let me move this over low here. Each time you move the aileron to the side, it's going to change which servo it moves, and the gyro is going to tell you, hey, I'm moving the next servo. Let's see if we can get it to go here. There we go. So my pitch servo is now moving, and you move the rudder stick let's get this going here a little better. There we go. Alright, move the rudder stick in one direction or the other, and you notice that that flips. So now I've got this set backwards. This servo is going down when it should be going up. So I want to hit the stick in the opposite direction, and now my swash plate goes up and down level. It doesn't matter what the settings are in the transmitter, because the gyro is currently controlling these, and it's controlling it since you've got it set to 90° one servo. It's only this stick is adjusting the pitch. Alright, once you've got those servos working in the right direction, you want to make sure that your tail is going in the right direction. I think it doesn't matter what your transmitter is set to on this, because you can reset both the direction here and the direction that the gyro compensates. So move your stick over to the left until it hits the tail servo. I don't want to change it, but you want to make sure that your actually, you can't adjust the rudder stick. You want to check the direction outside of programming mode and adjust it accordingly. And if you need to go back, you can hit the aileron stick the other direction, and it moves one of the servos, tells you which one you're going to change. There we go. Okay, then the next thing you want to set is servo trim. You don't adjust servo trim in the transmitter anymore. You adjust it on the gyro. It needs to know where everything is flat. We got 3 flashes, and we go through basically the same procedure. What you want to do is make sure that your arms are 90° to the control rods and the swash plate, and the gyro will twitch each servo as you move through the settings. For example, here's my pitch servo, aileron, rudder. If you need to go back, hit the stick the other direction. Get everything leveled up. And make sure that you hit the set button after you've got everything leveled out. So next thing you'll do, just having it sitting in this mode, you're going to want to go through all your linkages and adjust your swash plate, rise it up and down until your control arms, you want to move your pitch and throttle to 0 stick. A lot of guys are very exact about where they think center is. I just use roughly the gauge on the throttle stick. I found that it's not too far off, so it's good enough for my flying. Alright, so now your swash plate should be at 0 pitch. What you want to do is make sure that your swash plate, if you have a model that's already set up, should already be level. I found I had to drop the swash plate down a little bit though, because just like with any other head, you want to get these 2 mixing arms completely level first. Then the next thing you want to do, I use a little trick. The blades are pretty tight in the holders here, so I level or hit 0 degrees based on the button that's here, just to get it pretty close to the ballpark. We'll adjust that a little bit later. But you want to get these horizontal to the main shaft by adjusting these links here. Alright, once you've got that all set up, I threw a pitch gauge on, and it's a little tough to get the pitch set just right without a fly bar, but presuming that my button is level, wasn't too bad. It's over here. So break out your pitch gauge. I have a little 250 pitch gauge here, it fits perfect, and set it up for 0 degrees. Toss it on, And what I did here, a little kind of a trick, this line, I can't even see it. This line here should be parallel to 0 degrees. So I used this sighting down the button right here to get 0 degrees on the button here. Next thing you want to do is set the servo limits. Now, we'd already hit the button. I'm not going to start all over again, but we should be at 3 flashes right now for servo trim. Pop this off. Should be at 3 flashes for 3 flashes of all the lights for servo trim. And the first thing that you want to set are the tail limits. I'm sorry, we should be at 4 flashes. Let me go through the whole menu. If you get lost at some point, just need to hit the button and it'll rotate through all the menus. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's too many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's servo trim. 2, 3, 4. Okay, we are at servo limits. You want to set the left and the right direction on your tail first, so that there's no binding. Kind of wanted to do this anyway. Pull it in just a little bit. So with this, let's get everything in frame here. So the servo is going to pop to one side, and you want to adjust this till you get no binding. You do that by moving the rudder to the left and the right. Notice that's pulling it out. I think it stops at 100, and then it'll keep going, and then move it back the other way. You want to hit it till there's no binding. Now, as with any model, you're going to want to set up the model in rate mode first and adjust the mechanical linkages so that there's so that the helicopter is stable, doesn't rotate. You will need to come in and adjust your limits again once you do that. So we're going to hit this menu again. Alright, we hit that side, so move the stick to the left, pops to the other side, adjust your limit here, same way. Now we're going to set the cyclic limit. Now, I don't know if they're going to correct this, but there's currently a bug in the software. The cyclic limits are not set correctly here. You're going to set probably 1 or 2 degrees lower at this level, and then you're going to have to pop out of the menu and double check it, because you'll actually get more throw when the gyro is in operation than you get at this point. I do hope they get that corrected, because especially with the 250 there can be some real issues with that, and I'll get to that in just a second. So you can see the swash plates tilted. You can see the swash plates tilted here, and I kind of don't want to adjust it because I've got it set just right. But what you want to do at this point is break out your pitch gauge again, set it to your desired pitch throw, and then subtract 2 degrees, or about 1.5 to 2 degrees. So I have mine set at 5, which gives me just about 7 degrees of throw. And lock in your pitch gauge. Toss it on here. And then sight down. And then sight down the pitch gauge here against the button. You may also want to move one of your one of these just to give you a little bit more reference, but I'm using the button as my level reference. And then you want to dial in the right amount of cyclic throw for aileron by moving the rudder stick here, and it will gently increment and decrement your pitch. Then move the stick over to the left, and it will flip to the elevator throw, you want to set the same amount of elevator throw. Make sure that you're lined up 90 degrees to the model. I found actually flipping it this way lets me get in a little closer, because it drops the top half of this down, and it makes it easier to sight what level is. So you go through the same procedure here. Just hit your stick until the rudder stick until everything's lined up at 5 degrees. And at this point, I have no idea what's going on with that. The gyro just went completely nuts. Could be because this battery is getting on the low side. Right. Make sure that your transmitter is set with idle up off, and all your sticks are centered, everything's turned off. You want to turn it back on. Let things initialize. Yeah, that's what the issue is here. I'm way low on battery. I'm going to stop for a second, get another one. Okay, so again, what we're doing is plugging this back in with a fresh back. Make sure all your sticks are down, every switch is in the right spot. Don't touch anything, let the gyro initialize. Now you want to check your pitch throws, your cyclic pitch throws again. And you do that by just getting it lined up with the model this way and hitting your aileron. Now I had set 5 degrees here. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but I'm actually at more than 5 here. I'm at 6, which is what I did want to set. I'd actually prefer up to 8 on this model, but I can't get that set just now because for the 250, this pitch servo here will hit the main gear if you set too much collective pitch and cyclic pitch, and at the ends of the corners, that servo is going to hit the main gear. Alright, so double check that you got the right amount of aileron throw. Rotate your model 90 degrees. Make sure everything's lined up. And then hit your elevator and make sure that you've got the right amount of throw this direction. The servo's going to move real slow on the bench, so don't worry about it. And while you're at it, you may want to just double check that your tail's going in the right direction when you hit the stick here. And mine, let me double check that. Yep, mine's set the right direction here. Okay, you got your cyclic set. Now you want to check the gyro compensation direction. So you get out a pen because you're going to want to double check to make sure everything is which ones you need to change. You want to rotate the model and make sure that the gyro is compensating in the correct direction. Just move it back and forth a little bit, and you'll see that it should give a counter action to the direction that you move the model. And you're going to want to do the same thing with the swash plate. You're going to want to see that the swash plate tries to stay level as you tilt the model in both directions. Make note of anything that's backwards. Write it down, and then we're going to go into the next step. Sometimes I wish they had an on-off switch, except that it would get hit accidentally. So, we plug the model in, hold the rudder stick to the side, wait till we get our flashing lights here, let go of the stick. And the next menu we want to get to is 5, compensation direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This works the same way as the other menus. It's going to shift the servo that you're changing the compensation direction for, and as you hit the aileron stick, it's going to move which servo you're going to change. I'm sorry, that's absolutely not right. You need to check the lights here. As you move the stick, it will change how many flashes. So number of red flashes indicates which axis you're going to hit. We got 1 red flash here, and then blue or yellow for positive or negative. You're going to change the setting by moving the rudder stick to one side or the other and watch the lights. You'll see here I got 1 red. Here we go. Let's see. 1 red, and then blue. That's saying that my the 1 red flash means the yaw axis, and blue means that it's set to negative. And then move your stick to the left. 2 red flashes in blue means that my roll axis is negative. 3 reds and a yellow means that my pitch axis is positive. You know what? I did these steps a little bit wrong. I'm not sure that it matters. I tend to set the pitch first, and then I set the collective throw, and I don't know if I did that correctly, but we're going to go to 6 flashes here, and that sets the pitch range. You might want to do this step first and then adjust the cyclic throw. I don't know if it makes a difference. So I think most guys are suggesting 12 degrees pitch for flybarless setup. I can't actually get that much. I had to go down to 11. Otherwise, when I'm at the bottom end of the range, this servo arm will hit the main gear. You want to also check for binding in your model, but we're going to set the collective pitch range same way as we did the other ranges. Once you're in this setting, you want to go to full stick, sight down the pitch gauge, and adjust the rudder stick left and right to move that range up and down. The next setting, 7 flashes, is compensation of pitch to tail. I haven't need to set that. Some of you advanced guys may want to, of course, get that set up, but for a first setup, I don't think you need to modify that. So you do want to lock in your pitch range, 7 flashes, and then unplug the model because we've got to set now our pyro compensation. If you don't set the pyro compensation, I've heard that you can actually crash the model because it will do very, very funky things in the air. To do that, we need to go back to our other setup menu, which is plug the model in, hold in aileron this time, flip through the set button. Can't find my push pin. There it is. Flip through the menu here till we get to 7 flashes, but let's stop at 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, Oops, I went too far. I actually want 5 flashes here for pyro compensation. I was looking at the wrong menu page. 6 will reset everything to factory defaults, and I don't want to mess with that because I like the way I've got it set up. But if you screw your settings up, you can move that rudder stick when you got that many flashes, and it will take everything back to the default values. Alright, so I want to stop at 4 flashes. Flip the model up. And what's going to happen here, when I hit this set button, the gyro is going to tilt the swash plate in a direction. And what you're going to want to do as soon as it does that is pick your model up and rotate it. And you want to make sure that the swash plate kind of stays tilted in the same direction. It's pointing towards the same direction. So let's go ahead and do that. Hopefully it'll show up in the video. See, it tilted the swash plate back. As I rotate the model, it's kind of keeping that swash plate tilted towards me. It works to 90 degrees. Actually, it's working kind of all the way around. So my compensation direction is set correctly here. The swash plate tilted towards me, and it stayed tilted. The pyro optimization goes off after 40 seconds. So if you don't get it right, rotate through the menu again, and just make sure that you've got it set up correctly. Hit your set button once you lock it in, and the way that you change it is, of course, moving your rudder stick to one side or the other. And yellow flash is positive, blue flash is negative. Negative is the default. I did have to set mine up when I got this model going. I can't recall if I did actually or not. Once you've done that, you will want to unplug the model and double check that particular setting. Not sure you have to unplug it. Might be able to just rotate through the menu again. Remember, we hold the aileron stick until we get the flashing lights. And then the rotating lights. Flip through the menu and do the pyro optimization again. Once you've done that, unplug the model again, plug it back in, and just make sure everything's correct. Double check. I've still got it in programming mode. Once you get everything set up, just pick the model up, make sure that the swash plate tries to stay level as you move things around. Double check your tail setting. Now you're going to want to change your transmitter servo directions. The gyro knows which way to move everything, but your transmitter may not be set up correctly. Don't try and fly it like this. I actually had my tail set up backwards, as you saw in the maiden flight video for this guy. Make sure that your swash plate tilts in the right direction. It's going to move a little slow, don't worry about it, that's normal. Make sure your aileron's working right, elevator's working right. If it's not, just go through the menu and hit the the channel reverse. And the same thing with the tail, double check your tail is going the right direction, mine is. Once you got all that set up, I skipped a step. When you were moving your swash up and down, I was presuming that it was already level. You may want to double check that your swash plate is correctly level while you have the head off or after you've done the assembly, because you may have changed something when you readjusted the servo trims. And that's it. You're going to take it outside, cross your fingers, sweat, and spool her up. Good luck.